My next guest is an undefeated lightweight contender from Poland, and he trains out of Jacksonville, Florida. You can catch him in the PFL Smart Cage on September 30th when he will take on Ireland's Dylan Tuke in the PFL Europe playoff semifinals in Paris, France. He is Jakub Kaszuba. Kuba, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tyler. It's good to be on.
Well, first and foremost, I would be remiss to not congratulate you on a job well done in your PFL debut bout. You were going up against a very difficult opponent. That was not an easy fight, but you made it look easy. I was hoping we could start there. Can you talk to me about that matchup?
I mean, I from what I thought, I had the hardest guy in the bracket on paper, at least from the get go. So, I was excited that I'll get this guy out of the way, and then it will be easier. But yeah, I was expecting a 3 round war, but I came super prepared for this fight, really well prepared. So I was surprised because, like, in the second and a half minute mark, I was like, he's breathing really hard. Usually, I don't experience guys breathing like this until the second round. But I guess he really blew a casket because he did throw the shit out of me. Uh, it was a very high tempo from the beginning, but I'm assuming he just got gassed, especially like when I took him down, he stood up, he threw me, I stood up, and he kept trying to take me down. And I guess he wasn't ready for, how good my defense would be.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how you were able to set up that finish? I watched that fight a couple of different times, but I'm always curious to hear from the fighters themselves what they saw and what was the sequence that led to the end result.
Yeah, so I mean, he threw me, right? So we start. Well, okay, I guess I can talk through the whole fight because it was pretty short. Right at the beginning, I saw he was very high up. His knees weren't bent, so he was not afraid of a takedown at all. So I was like, I can shoot in nice and not worry. But I wasn't planning on taking him down in the first part. But I'm like, he's not even worried about me taking him down, so I did. And then he got up quickly. I didn't put too much effort into trying to keep him down, just put my body weight on him. But he got up pretty, up quick. Then we had this little, push and pull on the cage. Then he did that explosive threw me down nicely. But I knew he was a Greco guy, so I was ready that he's gonna throw me. I was getting ready for that in my mind. I knew, and the game plan was get back up, and that's what I did. And then he tried to take me down again. I got back up, and then I, put him on the cage, threw a couple of body punches. Then he wanted to do another throw, but he was kind of tired, so he just kind of fell on his ass, and I was on top of him. And from there, it was just, punching, 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 waiting what opens up. So every time I punched, he would try to defend it, and then I got mount. I started bombing the shit out of him from there, and I'm actually surprised he lifted me up from mount. I've been working on that now to keep guys more flattened, but he's strong. I mean, for him to lift me up, then he got into a worse position. But for a second, I was not adjusted. I didn't feel comfortable when I had his back after we did that switch. I thought I was gonna flip over, so I got afraid for a second. But then I trusted in my leg strength. I really locked in my legs, and I was like, well, I'm staying here. And then he rolled, me on his back, and I was just crazy how easy that sank in. I was like, that's in. I mean, now just a matter of time just to relax and like an anaconda slowly squeeze, right?
Well, it was a very impressive performance, a job well done. And I wanted to talk about, despite the fact that you made it look so easy in the cage, outside of the cage, that bout was probably particularly challenging. You have a weight cut, you have to fly from Jacksonville to Berlin, you have to get adjusted to the time. There's and it's a tough opponent on a very big stage. Like that's not easy to make your PFL debut on a stage like that against an opponent like that, and then all the other logistics that you particularly had to go through that other opponents didn't have to. What was the most challenging thing about getting mentally and physically prepared?
um, yeah, I mean, I guess because we drove down, we flew out of Miami, so I had to pack a shit ton of stuff, drive to Miami, flying from Miami, and then we actually landed in Poland in Warsaw, and then we took a train from Warsaw to Berlin. So yeah, just fucking moving nonstop. That's really what sucked. But I don't really train the week of the fight, so it didn't really bother me. It's one thing I had to do all that stuff and then train, but then whenever I can, just sat on my ass and chilled. I don't do anything fight week. I just chill. My weight's always good, and yeah, I never see the need to really train. Yeah, it's the time was pretty easy. The time I'm actually, I've been to Poland. I'm Polish, so I go to Poland often in the summers. So I knew it takes me 2 days to adjust. The hardest part, honestly, was the media right over there. I'm not used to that. It was how much media we did, and especially Wednesday, uh, and then Friday after the weigh-ins. So that was like 3 to 4 or 5 hours of media. A lot of guys were pissed. I brought my food and my water. I was the only fighter that did on Friday night, and Dylan actually, he got fucking pissed. He was like cursing under his breath, and he left at one point. They told us we couldn't leave, but he was just hungry and mad. I always come prepared. I bring my own food, my own water, especially on a Friday like that. So I think that was the hardest part. Was once I got there, the media, and thank God I'm very Polish. I pack my food every time I go anywhere. I bring my water. So thank God I came prepared for that. But that was a bit difficult. I'm used to just sitting on my ass.
Hey, I completely get it. Well, I did want to talk a little bit about Connor Hughes versus Dylan Tuke. This was a fight that, this is my words, not yours. I looked at this fight and I was like, Connor Hughes is going to demolish this guy in probably the first
Mm-hmm.
round. I'll be surprised if he even makes it into the second round. I see a complete mismatch. And I'll be the first to admit, I was completely wrong. Dylan showed up. The only thing that was a little bit surprising is if you thought Dylan was going to win, you would think he would find a KO. You would think he would find a submission victory. That's where he's had the most success. That was the very first time he went the full 15 minutes in his professional career. I thought that was very interesting. When you were in the
Mm-hmm.
back room watching this fight, figuring out who it was that you were going to fight, did you have a similar prediction? Were you thinking in your mind that Connor Hughes was going to be the guy you were going to face?
Well, before I even got there and saw both of them, right? I saw how heavy marketed Connor was by PFL Europe, so I was like, well, he's clearly the favorite. On paper, Dylan looked weak, 6-3 or 5-3, something like that. So I was like, okay, so I'm probably they want this English guy to win. I'm gonna, this is gonna be politically my opponent. But once I got there and we're doing photo shoots, I saw how big Dylan was. He's a bit taller than me actually. He's in real muscle, but he's tall and lengthy. And Connor didn't have a physical what would you call it, prowess about him. He wasn't like overly muscular or strong or anything. So I'm like, you know what? I think Dylan was gonna win from the get go, right? But I'm like, and then okay, we'll see what how we do. But Connor just came out very naive. He was just hands down. He was following him going forward. So it's just a bad game plan. I'm surprised Dylan didn't knock him out because he hit him with a couple clean punches, but I guess Dylan doesn't have a punch. Uh, so yeah, but even with Dylan's performance, I'm not too impressed. So I think I'm gonna walk through him. That's my personal opinion.
And that is a perfect segue into exactly what I was going to ask you. When you look at this matchup, you look at Dylan's body of work. Why is this such a difficult fight for him? Like, what is it about you specifically that gives you the biggest advantage over a fighter like Dylan?
I think my IQ is better. He does have a great team. He's got a great Irish team. They led him pretty well with the fight, with the strategy. But I feel like my IQ, I've been doing this since I was 12 years old, is just way there. So I'll be able to adjust. Well, they might have a good game plan, but once that game plan is not going through, it's all about the fighter making the decisions in there. On the spot. So I think that's where he'll have problems. And then I'm really strong, like Polish power. That ain't no joke. I don't know what it is. I don't know if our ancestors. I don't know what it is, but we're just fucking strong. So
Because of the buildup of that fight, because Dylan just got a huge upset victory over Connor Hughes, with him being the Irish guy, with the finals being in Dublin, is the pressure on him really, and maybe less you in the lead up to this fight? I'm kind of curious, in your opinion, if you feel like you're maybe under the radar a little bit.
I'm always under the radar. I'm used to it my whole life. I definitely think I need to have a clear victory because he's Irish, so the judges might be leaning towards him to win on any not dominating decision if it comes that far. Because he's Irish, he can fight in Ireland, and I guess we'll see because then there's another Irish guy before that, right? So they definitely want an Irish guy in the championship because I think those are the only Irish competitors.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely there's a pressure on me and Chizov, if any of us to win through decision, to really make it clear that we won. Uh, but yeah, I'm always under the radar. I mean, I've been doing this my whole life, and I'm not a big flashy guy, and no one knows how good I am until I eventually win that $100,000, and then eventually that million. So
You've had to scratch and claw to get this opportunity. None of this was handed to you. You've been competing for many years, an undefeated amateur fighter, an undefeated professional, and just now you're finally able to like compete on a big stage. So it's been years of sacrifice, years of hardship, and now here that we are, and with $100,000 purse for winning the championship, and then just getting an opportunity to fight in the 2024 PFL regular season. At this stage in your life, what would an opportunity like that mean for you?
retirement money, because I mean, if I win the $100,000, that's nice, right? And I guess I could quit my job and focus on fighting full time. But I like my job too much, So 100,000 would be nice, buy myself a rental property. But depending on how the regular season tournament next year goes, if I win $1 million, that's life changing. I can quit my job or take a break, right? And focus on fighting for full time. But yeah, it's exciting. It's I've been doing that stuff I've been doing this my whole life. So going to school and training, now working and training, so I'm used to this rhythm. But it'd be nice eventually just to relax more and be like, I can make money off of this and be comfortable and support my wife and eventually our children with it.
The 2024 PFL regular season, that is the goal. It's not so much winning the PFL Europe Championship. The goal is to get in the opportunity to fight in the 2024 PFL regular season. And when you look at the potential opponents that you'd be facing as part of that season, you're talking about guys like Shane Burgos, Natan Schultz, Clay Collard, Olivier Aubin Mercier, potentially. That's like
Oh
the
yeah,
guys that you
yeah.
would have to fight against. What are your thoughts when you look at the PFL lightweight class? What are your thoughts about just the 155 pounders in general?
There is a between like Oliver and everyone else. There's a big difference in skill. Um, so I think it's very it's not evened out, right? I really think Oliver's gonna plow through all these guys. Same with Collard. I mean, it was a cool fight, Burgos and Collard, but technique wise and what I was not impressed. It was very sloppy in my point of view. And I think Oliver said the same thing. He was like, "How many concussions did they get?" With a funny French accent. But yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to Oliver and all these other guys, there's like a pitfall of skill, and I think I would give Oliver a better run for his money, honestly. But I won't know until I get there. I may be being too prideful at the moment.
I think that's okay. But I did want to simply ask you for the fans that are going to be watching you compete for the very first time in a few weeks on September 30th in Paris. For people who aren't familiar with you, who are going to watch you fight for the very first time on ESPN, what can they expect to see when you fight Dylan on September 30th?
A beautiful ballet for an awkward, not pleasant opponent. I'm still gonna look nice and crisp in technique, and you'll see the difference in level of skill. It's gonna be a ballet. There's nothing I can't do.
Perfect. Well, Kuba, I want to give you an opportunity. I know that you have a lot of people that work with you to give you the opportunity to compete on this stage. If there's anyone, sir, that you'd like to thank before I let you go, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank my gym, Elevate, and Gracie Barra here in Jacksonville. I want to shout out to Olsztyn, Poland, and my hometown, which I love and miss all the time. Shout out to the Jaguars because I'm, from Duval, Jacksonville. And I guess my past sponsor, Microchip USA, and my new sponsors, which will be one of my friends from JSO who have his badge on there. So I thank him for it. And yeah, that's and my wife was my strength and conditioning and nutritionist. So she's really getting me ready for it, it makes me happy. We work together well as a team.
Hey, well, yeah, make sure you don't forget about her. You got to shout her out. Kuba, I thank you for your time, sir, and I wish you the best of skill on September 30th.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you so much.